Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome this week to what I promise you is a sober match reaction. Yep, a sober one. I promise you that. After last week's disaster, we're back to normal. And Celtic, well, they just keep going. St Mirren 0, Celtic 3, still top of the table, 100% record intact, and Brendan Rodgers' side just looks better and better. I'm chuffed. I'm guessing you're chuffed. Let's talk about that. Like and subscribe, all that jazz, you know what to do by now, head down below, it's absolutely free. Can I just say very, very quickly before we get into this match reaction that the giveaway winners will be announced tonight. Yes, you'll remember I was doing that football shirt giveaway where we're going to have 3 different winners. I will have the winners of them posted tonight on the community section of the channel and my Twitter account. So if you've not got Twitter, you'll be able to find it out through my channel on the community section, and then, you know, aye, simple. It's pretty self-explanatory. Right, let's talk about Celtic, shall we? We just keep cooking, don't we? Celtic are literally cooking with gas. We have started this season perfectly. A 3-0 win, another clean sheet, and 3 more goals to add to the tally. It keeps Celtic top of the table, moving into match day 4, which of course is the Glasgow Derby. We take on Rangers next week, and we couldn't be going in on better form, could we? We are just firing on all cylinders. We're looking really, really good. And today, of course, the big conversation, the narrative hanging over today's game was how will Celtic cope without Matt O'Riley? And Celtic have reassured many of us without him on the park today. He's got to be a huge miss, and it was genuinely gutting to see a Celtic game without him today. You know, we've got so used to him being there week in, week out. He's been so fit, he's been so available for us, that he's been a stalwart in the team for the last 2.5 years. To then suddenly be without him, you're wondering what will the midfield look like. But we handled it really, really well today. Paulo Bernardo had the pressure on himself to come in and, I'm not going to say replicate what Matt O'Riley does, because I think that would be such a huge ask. You're talking about a £30 million player. Bernardo came here for a fraction of that, a tenth of that at £3.5 million. But there was a lot of pressure on him to come in today, and I think a lot of supporters were looking for that reassurance of how we'd be without Matt O'Riley this afternoon, and we answered that question pretty well, I thought. It still is an area we need to improve, and I don't want to get too bogged down on that today. That's a talking point for tonight and tomorrow, and how we replace Matt O'Riley and how we move forward. But what I was happy with today is that we didn't look like we missed him too much. We went to a tough place in St Mirren Park. We dismantled the opposition, and they never got close to us. They never laid a glove on us. Players like Hatate, McGregor, they stepped up in that middle of the park. They gave us 2 really good performances individually. They both gave us goals. So, yeah, Matt O'Riley out. It's a huge miss, and we're just going to have to adapt to life without him. But as I said in last night's stream, look, listen, if you're not used to it by now, you should be. It's sore. It's painful. I know it is when you lose your favourites, when you lose your best. But Celtic have lost better players before him, and we'll lose better players after him. It's the life of the game. It's the life of supporting Celtic, and we're just going to have to get used to it. One thing I will say though is, please, one of these players that we're bringing in this week, I hope they can take corners, because I miss Matt O'Riley's corners. So we'll start from the start, shall we? The big talking point was that Nicholas Kuhn was dropped from today's starting 11, but there was reasoning to it. It turns out he was out of training for some of the week with a back injury, I believe it was, so there was a reason he didn't start today. He wasn't fully fit, but we'll come on to talking about Nicholas Kuhn later on, because he didn't let it affect his season stats, did he, as he chipped in with an assist. We'll come to that. That was the only big thing aside from the O'Riley situation, but Celtic started the game so strong, and we've made a recent habit out of scoring early goals, and I love this recent habit, I really do, because last season there was such an issue at Celtic where we struggled to get going, and it took us a long time to find our opening goal. And the longer it took us to find that opening goal, I thought Celtic became more panicky. They became a little bit more, they just didn't look gelled. They looked like they were really just scrambling to get something put together to try and find that goal. So this habit that we've found in the first 3 games of the season of scoring early on has really done Celtic wonders in making the first half as easy a watch as possible, as fluid a watch as possible as well, where I feel like the team have been really in sync with each other. Those early goals are important, and Callum McGregor found his today. Listen, Callum McGregor, where have you been keeping this for the last couple of years, son? He's been smacking them, and he's been finding the back of it. Done it at Hibs. He's done it here today at St Mirren Park. He could have had 2 against Hibs, remember? He smacked the post in the second half. He's loving it. Steve Clark, his face was tripping him when he seen McGregor do that. He's realised that he's not going to have that in Scotland anymore. I love it. And it really makes the case, again, it brings up that whole conversation that we've had so many times over the last couple of years about McGregor's positioning in the midfield. Does he explicitly need to be played as a number 6? You know, does he have to be played as a deep lying playmaker? You know, can he maybe come forward a little bit where he used to play back in Rodgers' first tenure when Scott Brown was still here? Can McGregor maybe move back to that position where he's getting the chance to shoot and when he's getting the chance to be involved in goals? It brings that conversation back into play. But listen, McGregor's getting on a bit. He's into his 30s now. I think he's content in the role that he plays for Celtic. And when he's given these opportunities, I'm going to be shouting shoot at him every single time. Celtic Park, away from home, in Europe, I don't care. I'll be shouting shoot at McGregor. He's got it in his locker, and he's always been good at that. He's always been good at finding the back of the net. He's just obviously been, since Ange Postecoglou came in especially, just been a little bit more reserved in the positions that he's had to take up as a Celtic player. So he opens the scoring through a fantastic strike. It gives Celtic a comfortable start to the game, and we build on it well from there. We just look really, really good, and St Mirren just can't lay a glove on us, as I said. I thought that in the first half, the Hatate, McGregor and Bernardo played really, really well. That was the highlight of the team for me. There's no point in getting caught up too much in the defensive side of things. We didn't have to defend anything at all. I think if we're going to talk about the first half, and before we round out the first half, we should probably talk about Adam Idah, who didn't have the best performance today. His first start for Celtic since returning to the club on a permanent basis. And before, please, I beg you, before you go into the comments section and start moaning and saying it was a waste of £8.5 million, can you remember that this is literally his first start? It's his first start. And what I will say about Idah was, his end product was poor today, absolutely, and it deserves to be criticised because it wasn't obviously at its finest. But everything else he was doing was pretty good. His runs were impeccable. His thinking in the game it looked sharp. He looked sharp in the sense that he was getting into these areas, but I think you can see that he's still maybe half a yard off it in terms of his pace. And you could see that obviously his finishing and his kind of final pass wasn't quite there. So he was doing all the correct things and the correct thinking off of the ball. But as soon as he seemed to have the ball at his feet, I don't know, he seemed a little bit flustered. He kind of hacked a few shots and hoped for the best, and it just didn't pay off nicely. And aesthetically, they didn't look great either. But I'm not going to get caught up in that after one game. You know, I'm assuming that next week he'll have a big part to play against Rangers. And, you know, for everybody who I've already seen complaining on Twitter about his first half performance, there'll be the exact same people who'll be celebrating if he scores next week against Rangers. So take it a game at a time, judge it as it goes. Don't judge it over one game. We live in the reactionary social media age of football when the attention spans of fans cannot last longer than 45 minutes. Do not judge a player off their 45 minutes that they've given. It's a guy who last season contributed heavily, and I have faith that he'll repay that £8.5 million. It's a poor first half for him today. I'm not getting too bogged down by it. We'll definitely see better from Adam Idah. Aside from that, everybody was clicking. I thought that we were doing really well. Maida, obviously Forrest as well. Even the fullbacks, Johnson, I thought had a really good first half. But the highlight was the three in the middle. Rio Hatate got us that second goal. He put Celtic 2-0 up. I mean, it's just pure, and I put the quote up on Twitter, pure, beautiful, inventive brodgeball, the lead up to that second goal. And that's really the highlight of what this Celtic team can do. That second goal, I think, captures perfectly everything that Brendan Rodgers has built towards now. We're just getting better and better. Second half, yeah, I mean, St Mirren changed their approach to the game, which meant it became a little bit more difficult for Celtic to maybe find as many clear-cut chances, but we still were we were all over them, weren't we? What was the final possession stat? 76.1%. to Celtic. That is outrageous. 76.1%, 21 shots to their 3, 8 shots on target to their 1. Genuinely just total domination from Celtic, and that carried through onto the second half. We made some changes, different players got different minutes. Nicholas Kuhn entered the frame, and as I mentioned earlier in the video, he didn't let that opportunity not to start the game affect him. He still got an assist today, and Alistair Johnson finished the chance beautifully with his goal. Alistair Johnson is I think, been slept on for a Player of the Year pick. I think he could be so huge for us this season. I love him, and I think today he had a brilliant performance from a defensive point of view to an attacking point of view. He spent a lot of that second half tucked away in the final third for Celtic. Actually, if you noticed it, if you watched just him off the ball, he was really driving forward and keeping on top of James Forrest initially, and then Nicholas Kuhn. He wanted to play as the right winger almost. Johnson is being slept on for a Player of the Year pick. I think he can have a huge season for us. He's a Ballon d'Or candidate. No, but seriously, he was good. Celtic were good. Owen Thiago Holm got on the park. Congratulations to Francis Turley, who makes his competitive debut for the club as well. He got on the park. A few other substitutions. Kyogo came back after, all these... I seen a lot of Rangers fans in my comments section over the past few weeks saying Kyogo was out for 4 months. God, time flies. 4 months, Jesus. So yeah, brilliant. 3-0, we killed them off, and we just toyed about with them, really. This is a Celtic team that is currently in full flow, and it's just night and day from this stage last season. You can't complain. And I know there will be a couple of people who probably complain in the comment section for some reason. We're a very spoiled support, and I think some people have taken spoiled to the next. It was the same against Hibs last week or the week prior, the game at Easter Road, and people came on and they said in the comments, second half was pish. I'm like, you're at Easter Road and you've just controlled them for 45 minutes in the second half. What are you wanting? Are you wanting us to score 8 goals every game? It doesn't work like that. Football's not like that. These teams change their dynamics. They change their way of play. You cannot complain about the performance we just had today in any stretch of the imagination. Brilliant. And St Mirren, famously a place where I think, remember, they were the only team that beat Ange Postecoglou that season when we went to St Mirren Park in the September of 2022. And it's a tough place to go once again, and we've made it look like a walk in the park. So I know there'll be people that want to moan, but I can't get around that. I just can't understand it. I'm buzzing with what I've seen today. I'm really confident heading into the derby next week. The positive thing is everybody's went off the park in one piece, it seems, including Kyogo, whose shoulder stayed in place. We should be heading into that Rangers game next week with a fully fit side, and hopefully with a few more additions before the deadline. The point I raised on Twitter during the game today was, if the Celtic board can't watch these opening 3 league performances and decide that they don't want to back Brendan Rodgers heavily, then we are never going to get anywhere as a football club. This is all the evidence we need that Brendan Rodgers should be backed. The team have come miles from this point last year, and even from the end of last season, we look like a different side altogether. We are playing some beautiful football, and Brendan Rodgers should be backed heavily. Dear Celtic board, back Brendan Rodgers. By the end of the week, I expect to see signings, and if we don't have signings, if we don't have the sufficient improvements that we need, there's just no fucking point. So, buzzing, happy, 3-0 win, top of the league. Right, that does it for today then, our match reaction. We'll dig a bit more in depth tomorrow on the channel when we talk about transfers, all the rest of it. So, yeah, until then, like and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'll see you all next time.